Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. I don't often do this, but I want to go over a video with you that's about 2 years old, and it covers what happens when a government takes over the means of production and how it is that the people suffer and not those people that are heading the government. All right, so this video is about Venezuela, and I'm not going to play the entire thing. I'm just going to stop at some key points, and I will leave the link to this video on the description of the video and a pinned comment. Well, I'll leave it on a pinned comment. That way it's a lot easier for you to find. But I'll leave it on a pinned comment so you can go watch the video yourself. It's only about 11 minutes long, but hopefully we won't take 11 minutes to look at the whole thing. I'm just going to stop at some key points. So let's go ahead and start.
Sunrise in Maracaibo, and these people have been up all night, waiting in line for gasoline.
So this gentleman's been waiting in line for gasoline since 6 o'clock in the morning. And listen to this.
This man says he's been here since 6 a.m. the day before. Venezuela is suffering from a massive gas shortage, so most of them have been in line for 24 hours.
Now remember that Venezuela sits on the biggest oil reserve in the world. I said that right, the biggest oil reserve in the world.
The thing is, I live here. You practically live here.
These lines can stretch for miles, snaking through neighborhoods and wrapping around city blocks.
Look at those lines.
Once
for
drivers
gas.
finally reach the pump, they can only fill up around 13 gallons at a time, which among these many old cars doesn't last long. The good news is they will pay no money. Gas is so heavily subsidized in Venezuela, it's essentially free.
Now, do you really think that the gasoline is free? Look at the price they have to pay for that gas. They have to wait in line for hours, sometimes days, just to get 13 gallons. All right? Your most valuable commodity, I would say, is your time, yourself. So that gas is definitely not free.
I want to explode, says Eddie Rincon. He waited in line almost 24 hours only to now be told there was no gas left.
Can you imagine how I feel? Pained, cheated, and humiliated by all of it.
Now, this is a little bit of history of how Venezuela got to be where it is today.
Maracaibo was the oil boom town of South America, Venezuela's second largest city and home to 2/3 of its oil production, drawing companies and workers from all over the world, including the United States.
Another familiar sight was a used car lot full of American autos.
Once a city where Venezuela's glitterati went to suntan and make money, and to spend it, now a ghost town.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what happens when governments take over the means of production. The country stops going forward. They get stuck in time. As this reporter here said, it is now a ghost time after once being a flourishing nation. Now the streets are like ghost towns, and now they're stuck in time, no longer importing those cars and things that they were used to with their standard of living.
Rusting and stagnant, broken pipelines underwater, leaking oil everywhere.
How long has all of this been shut down?
That? Around 5 years. This is a cemetery now. Before, there were fishermen, people swimming, having fun.
Now, this reporter is talking to these 4 gentlemen who actually work for the oil company that is state-run, and see what they say.
It's not normal. It's not normal. This is crazy.
We sat down with 4 workers from the state oil company.
5 people died when a house exploded. You can imagine the situation because PDVSA doesn't take responsibility for any of it. It doesn't take responsibility for the dead people, nor for improvements, for anything. They didn't answer for anything. It's run for your lives here.
PDVSA is the state-run oil company. It is the company that is being run by the government, not by private industry. Now, some of you may say, well, these people must hate private industry. Just wait and see.
The fate of Venezuela and its economy has historically been tied to the oil industry. It was oil that made it the 4th richest country in the world back in 1950. And in 1998, when Hugo Chavez was elected president, the country was producing 3.5 million barrels of oil a day, near the peak. Chavez began using profits from the state-run company to fund his socialist revolution, building housing projects for the poor, and sending them free boxes of food. In late 2002, PDVSA workers opposed to Chavez went on strike for new elections. So Chavez fired 19,000 PDVSA employees, almost half the total workforce, and replaced them with loyalists.
Did you hear that? He fired the people that know how to run that company, that oil company. He fired them and replaced them with people that agreed with his ideology. It's not about putting out a good product when government takes over industry. It's about putting out product by people that agree with what you agree with. That is why, in my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, and I believe most of you would agree, cancel culture is a terrible thing. Because if you're not willing to listen to your constituents, to listen to their grievances, then your country will not go forward. And this right here, what we're seeing right now, is proof.
These workers who are not Chavez loyalists say they continue to go to work but simply sign in and leave because there's nothing to do.
Do you worry about the consequences of speaking out?
We want the world to know what is happening in Venezuela.
I don't have anything to lose. Let them see the cameras. Let them see, because I don't care anymore.
Since 2013, when President Nicolas Maduro was elected, Venezuela's been suffering the world's worst economic contraction outside of a war zone. Then last year, a catastrophic blow. A wave of looting after the country's electric grid failed and the city lost power for an entire week. Over 500 businesses were ransacked.
Do you think that that is unique to just Venezuela? Ladies and gentlemen, here in the United States alone, we're already hearing states say that there's going to be rolling blackouts during the winter. What do you think is going to happen when things get worse? Do you think that when the blackouts get longer, that people are just going to sit steadily by? No. When blackouts happen, guess who comes out? Who comes out at night? Usually people that want to commit crimes. Those people that want to stay safe will more than likely just stay in their homes, and the people that want to commit crimes, they come out at night. So this is not unique to Venezuela. When blackouts start happening here in the United States on a regular basis, once we start our conversion over to a third world country, or our transition over to a third world country, this is going to happen more often, and there's going to be more looting, more rioting, more violence in the streets. Now listen to what this gentleman has to say. All right, this is how desperate they are to get someone in there that can actually run their plans. They're actually willing to go to war to get their country back from their own government, ladies and gentlemen.
With the Americans, the industry worked before.
So you want the Americans to come back?
Of course, they have to come here so that they can change PDVSA.
Oh my God, I want them to enter with planes and with all their equipment, with F-16s, with drones, with everything. I want them to enter in force so they can clean everything up and PDVSA can be reborn.
You're saying you wouldn't mind that they start a war here?
So ladies and gentlemen, this is how bad it was in Venezuela at least 2 years ago. From what I understand, things are starting to turn for the better. And as I've often stated, crises don't last forever. Venezuela's been going through this for probably about the last decade, a little more than a decade now. Crises don't last forever. But imagine the people in Venezuela. Imagine if before this crisis started, imagine if their population were preppers, right? Sure, you can't store enough food to last 10, 11, 12 years. But I guarantee you this, that people in Venezuela that preserved their wealth before their economy started to collapse and their financial system started to collapse, if they preserved their wealth in silver or gold, they ate. And they still do. People in Venezuela have been known to go to the shops and get haircuts and get food and get things that they need by shaving off flakes of gold from coins, from jewelry, or with silver. So for those of you that say you can't eat gold and silver, you're right. You really can't eat it. Or at least it doesn't provide you very much nutrition, if any at all. However, there is a use case for gold and silver. It preserves your wealth, number one, and you can use it to buy stuff when there is no stuff available. Why? Because you don't have enough money, because your money's no good. But gold and silver is real money instead of fiat currency. It can't be printed away. The value of it cannot be printed away. like fiat currency's value can. And that's how a lot of people in Venezuela have survived. There's a lot of other things that they've done where they've gone across the border, I believe, to Colombia to buy food there and things like that. But those people that prepared, at least financially, were able to make it through a lot better than those that did not. Because, again, you can't stock enough food to last 10, 20 years. Some people may be able to. I know that governments can, and I know that they do. But the average person cannot. That's why I am a proponent of putting away some wealth in gold and silver for times like that. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, again, I left the link to this video in a pinned comment under the video if you want to go and revisit it. But that's what happens, ladies and gentlemen. This is a real-time use case of what happens when a government takes over industry. So for those of you that think that government will do a better job running industry than the private sector would do, this is what you've got to look forward to. I hope you got something out of this. Have a great weekend ahead, and we'll see you tomorrow during our live stream at 9 a.m. Alaska time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. God bless you all.